Good evening, and welcome to yet another edition of Sportszone. I am your host, David Castillo. 4 years ago, when Grant McCaslin was hired to take over the UNT men's basketball program, it was regarded as the worst program in Conference USA. In his first 3 years as head coach, he has led the program to 3 consecutive 20-win seasons and 1 regular season championship. 4 years to the date of his hire, the men's basketball team was cutting down the net at the Star in Frisco after securing their first Conference USA tournament championship. Now, for the first time since winning the Sun Belt Conference in 2010, UNT is going dancing. To recap this past week's tournament and to preview this week's game against Purdue, I'm joined by analysts Jocelyn Lassiter and Mason Shepard. How are we today, gentlemen?
Good,
Ladies?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good to hear. Now, it was a really exciting week. In order for them to advance, they had to win 4 games in 4 days and come away with 4 W's. I mean, that's difficult in itself. I want to go to you, Mason. What kind of happened and what transpired in order for them to have secured their first Conference USA championship?
All right, UNT men's basketball fans, let me talk to you. So what happened is, honestly, I saw a team that went out there and played with everything that they had. They knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel for them, being able to go dancing like they're going to be right now, and they played intense, and they also played to their strengths, and they played what they knew well, and that's what I saw. I just saw a team with passion and fire and vigor, and I loved seeing it. It was impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it was really exciting to watch. I mean, when we came into this last week talking about it, they had just come back from a 3-game losing streak, so it was tough sledding looking at the tournament. So that game against Western Kentucky, quickly, Jocelyn, what did you see that kind of really took over? I mean, they had a 17-0 run and then they lost the lead. So kind of tell us what happened.
Well, I think to start off is that before they even got into this tournament, like we were mentioning earlier, they lost their last 3 regular season games. So I think that momentum, that drive, that whole attitude of the team changed dramatically because they knew that if they wanted to win a championship, they had to go in there stronger than what they did playing in their last couple of games of the regular season. With Western Kentucky, I mean, you have to give it up for my boy Javion Hamley, who did what he had to do as a senior, as a leader of the team against Western Kentucky. Like you said, they were up, then they lost the lead, but I think them not giving up on themselves and realizing that they were close, it gave them everything that they needed, the momentum, the hope, the jump, the force, everything like that you said earlier. So I think that's what actually gave them out on top and to win in overtime. That just means that they had the extra energy to keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Javion Hamlin. I mean, there's a reason why he's the leader of this team. I mean, he kept them in this game when they hadn't scored in over 8 minutes. I mean, it was an insane game against Western Kentucky.
Guy's a star. Bottom line, guy's a star.
He's the GOAT. He's UNT's
amazing.
GOAT. I think it's without a doubt. He owns this basketball program, and it's going to be sad to see him go. But
yeah.
Let's not get to the sad part yet. We still have a game against Purdue. I want to go to you, Jocelyn. What are the chances that UNT secures a victory against Purdue?
All right, so Purdue is no stranger to the NCAA tournaments. And not only that, but Purdue has great talent. Now with UNT, I'm not going to knock them out because I do think I'm an underdog. You already know that, David. I go for the underdogs. That they can actually pull it together. A little things that they can work on is not being slow paced because that's one of the struggles that we have. Purdue is a straight out the gate, you know, jump forward, straight just from beginning to end. And that's something that UNT needs to take into account. And then also, if we have start utilizing our main players, Javion gets his bucket. You have big man there. He needs to be able to get up if he can. So I think it's all about utilizing the players and just taking a step forward against the talent that Purdue has. And I honestly think, even though Purdue is favored to win, I think this could be a really close game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I want to mention something. They have elite size. They got a 6'10" guy who's just been killing it in Trevion Williams, and 7'4" Zach Eddy, who's just been a monster on the boards for them as well. Now I want to go to you, Mason. What does this getting to the tournament even do for the program as a whole?
It boosts morale. I can speak for a lot of people, including myself. You know, it's one of those things where it's like you support your school in anything that they go through, but do you really keep up with it? Do you really follow it? Are you really that invested? With UNT and their chance to be in a tournament like this, it gives the school that extra boost of morale to know that we have a team that can compete.
Look, I just want to go ahead and throw a little shine to the Mean Green Scream. Connor and Annis there predicted the tournament outcome to a T. I mean, it was perfect. So I want to go ahead and let him know that we were watching, and it was great to see. Okay, guys, next up, we're going to take a closer look at the NCAA tournament and see if anyone's bracket needs some help. Join us after this quick commercial break. Welcome back to Sportszone. Every March, companies around the country see vacation days increase and productivity drop significantly. That's due to the fact that every March, college basketball teams around the country battle it out in their respective conference championships for a chance to punch their ticket to the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament, also affectionately known as March Madness. This week, 68 teams who have successfully secured a ticket to the big dance will battle it out in one of the country's most popular tournaments. One of the main reasons it has soared in popularity is due to the interactive nature of filling out your own tournament bracket. To take a look at our own brackets and debate who's got it all wrong, I'm joined by analysts Ryan Baldwin and Anthony George. How are we today, gentlemen?
Good.
Great, thanks.
Great. Now, I want to get into it right off the bat. Your biggest upset. I'm going to go to you, Ryan. Who's going to be shocking the nation come Thursday?
Biggest upset is our very own Mean Green taking on Purdue. It's been definitely a big underdog story. Purdue's been in the tournament time after time. UNT looking to make a run after their season was robbed last year after winning the Conference USA tournament, winning it again this year in a thriller. They are going to be looking to take a big win against a strong Purdue team and make a run to the Sweet 16.
Now, I'm not going to say that's shocking for me because I have the same thing happening, and I want to go ahead and throw some stats to back that up real quick. In 25 of the last 35 years, a number 4 has been beaten by a 13 seed. So maybe. George, what about yourself? Who is the biggest upset coming this week?
I have Georgetown making it all the way to the Sweet 16. I think that they're coming into this game as a fantastic. They've had a fantastic streak. Patrick Ewing's got a lot of fire under him after not being let into Madison Square Garden, and I think that he's going to ride that wave to the Sweet 16. Probably not going to get past there, but I really like Georgetown and their fire going into this game.
So that will immediately take me to Cinderella. Is that what you're going to go ahead and be calling your Cinderella for this year? Or do you have another team who maybe takes it potentially farther than the Sweet 16?
I have Loyola Chicago going into my Final Four. I think that they're a lot better team than when they went on that Elite Eight run in 2018-2019, led by Cameron Krutwig, their big, who's been a fantastic scorer and fantastic defender. They really have a knack for not getting under pressure and playing that very good full court defense. And I think that Baylor is probably the softest one seed. Baylor's going to be the softest one seed. I think Illinois is also pretty soft. So I think that they have a good chance of making it to the Final Four.
I mean, you came in with a lot of hot opinions. Baylor, the worst one. Oh, my God. I have Baylor going all the way, so we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I want to go to you, Ryan. Who is your Cinderella team? Who's making it further than the Sweet 16, maybe to the Elite Eight?
Well, here's the scoop, and I'm going to tell you. Abilene Christian University, the 14th seed, that's a real Cinderella story right there. The number 1 defense in the NCAA will be taking on a Texas team that has not won an NCAA tournament game under Shaka Smart. They'll probably go up against BYU, who has not won a game since 2010. And then you've got the softest, in my opinion, 1-2 seeds in Michigan and Alabama, who struggled against good defenses in their respective conference tournaments. You want a real Cinderella story? How about Abilene Christian, the first 14 seed to go to the Elite Eight?
You're talking nonsense. Texas is not losing to Abilene Christian. It's not happening.
It's
there's
not
no way that
They've yet
happens.
to win a game in the tournament. Let's see it. Come on, Shaka Smart.
I don't like Texas
Nonsense.
either. I think they get beat in the round of 32. But Abilene Christian, come on now. They have the number 1 defense against who they didn't play anybody. They literally did not play a single good team when they played. So I really don't see where you're coming from. Abilene Christian really doesn't have a chance against Texas, even though that's probably the weakest 3 seed out of the bunch.
March 16th, 2021. Write it down, folks.
We'll see.
You're on the predicting side right now, so let me get your predictions for Final Four. George, who do you have battling it out?
I have Gonzaga against Alabama and Ohio State against Loyola Chicago. Gonzaga beating Alabama, Ohio State beating Loyola Chicago, ending the run, and then I have Gonzaga taking it all 79-71.
Crazy. Okay, let me go ahead and go to Ryan quickly. Your Final Four. Who do we have there?
Mine's very similar. Yeah, I have Gonzaga versus Alabama, but then I have Baylor versus Loyola, with Gonzaga facing Baylor in the finals. I think it'll be a very contested match, 2 of the top offenses in the NCAA, but I think Gonzaga has the better defense, and therefore Gonzaga will be the one that's going to take it at the very end. But we're talking getting a perfect bracket's going to be 1 in 120 billion. So at the end of the day, you take your notes, and that's what you got.
Okay, I just want to take some time, and I hope that the screen's on everyone here. Applaud these gentlemen for taking such a risk and saying Gonzaga. Wow, Gonzaga's going to win it all.
Sorry for taking
y'all
the
are
best
going
team
really
in the
out there for this
NCAA
one.
as the
Wow, the
favorites,
undefeated
yeah.
team's going to win them all.
I don't see a team, especially in this tournament, with Kentucky out, with Duke out, that can even make a run that comes close to Gonzaga. These are softer brackets than normal, and I think that this will be the first undefeated team to ever win the entire thing.
First time since 1976 that both Kentucky and Duke have been out, by the way, just since we're talking about weird tournaments. And you have Baylor going in.
Yeah, Baylor, that's a risk of a take. You know what, let's just
Worst
end it here before I start getting upset. Look, it's time for a break, but don't go anywhere. We will be talking goats and unicorns when we return. Welcome back to Sportszone. Before the break, I mentioned that we would be discussing goats and unicorns when we returned, and that's exactly what we are about to do. The Dallas Mavericks have won 11 of their last 14 games, and the main reason for their success has been due to the MVP-like play of Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis' recent offensive resurgence. Coming off of what was the NBA's toughest schedule in the first half of the season, the Mavs are looking to stack up victories coming out of the All-Star break. In order to do so, they will need to grab wins against the best teams in the West. To break down the Mavs' recent success, I'm joined by analysts Jennifer Holberg and Terrence Williams. How are we today, guys?
Good, how are you?
I'm pumped. 11 out of the last 14, the Mavs are looking great. You know what? Presiding the game against the Clippers, that it happens. It's going to bound to be happen. We're going to win on Wednesday, bring it all back. Terrence, quickly recap, how did that game kind of transpire, and how did the Mavs end up losing that game?
Okay, David, I'm going to be honest with you. You're saying the Mavericks look good. They look okay. Let's be honest with this. The Mavs are an 8 seed right now, and they're fighting for that 8 seed. With the Mavs, they lost this game to the Clippers 109-99. Luka had 25 points, 16 assists, and 10 rebounds, giving him his 9th triple-double. And with Kristaps Porzingis, he had 22 points and only a measly 7 rebounds. With my opinion, he needs to do more. With Leonard having 22 points and 7 of the Clippers teammates having double figures, the Mavs are going to have to do more, David.
No, you're right. You know, right now the team is comprised of Luka and KP having to do the majority of the work and hoping that the role players are able to come out there. Now, I want to stick with Luka and KP. Are they going to be able to stick with that, method and continue and win in the West? Jennifer?
No, I'm really sorry, but they can't. I mean, this is what happened last season, and we saw what happened last season. I understand KP went out in the Clippers series and such, but they still played a majority of the season, and they were the 8 seed, and that's where they're at now. Nothing is getting better. I mean, KP is scoring more points offensively, but he almost has a mismatch almost every single time he's in the post, and they're not utilizing it enough. And I definitely think it's just not it's not improving the way that the Mavs thought it was going to be this season.
I honestly don't think he's utilizing himself because, I mean,
Absolutely.
they put him in the spots. It's just,
Bro, he's a big man, and he's not playing like a big man.
He doesn't have that mentality, that dog mentality. I honestly believe that because, I mean, if you have Luka Doncic leading you in points, steals, assists, and rebounds.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous when you have a 7-foot center. It doesn't make any sense. He needs to be more aggressive on the boards.
Sure.
For sure.
You put any other team, and it's ridiculous if one player's leading in all categories. But we're talking
Besides
about the
LeBron.
GOAT. This Luka Doncic is one of, if not top 3 best player in the NBA right now. Now. So it's not completely surprising that he leads in all the categories. Now, again, he is carrying the load in the last 11 of the 14 victories or in the games. He's had to actually play more than 30 minutes. So, of course, he's doing the heavy sledding, but it's okay. You know, we're going to talk about the immaculate vibes only because that's all I have right now. And I want to talk about the role cast. I mean, you know, we've had great play from Jay Rich, Brunson, and I think that is what's going to elevate this team into a 5 or 6 seed. Terrence, what do you think about this role player mentality that Hardaway's been able to pick up and kind of lead this second unit?
Yeah, with Brunson and Jay Rich, I haven't seen, honestly, much coming out of those two, especially this last game. But with Tim Hardaway, he had a really decent game on the defensive end and with points. Besides him having 21 points, and he also shot 55% from the 3, which is stellar for him. Besides that, I don't think he's doing much more. He needs to do more on the rebounds. He needs to have more assists. I understand that Luka's controlling the ball, but 21 points, and that's it. They need more help around there, honestly.
Look, you mentioned what can Jay Rich or Brunson do. I mean, the past couple games, it's been Brunson's team. He's been doing great. Jay Rich had 27 points against Oklahoma. So, I mean, they're doing great. It's not consistent, and that's probably been the biggest issue.
That's what they need, consistency.
But I don't want to go ahead and, again, we're just getting the full Mavericks team healthy. And I know a lot of people are loving to just kind of keep bringing them down. But please bring them back up. Get Terrence off my back for like a second, please.
Go on,
Yeah, I'm
David.
not going to help you either. I'm really sorry.
no.
They need more. Like,
They do.
Tim Hardaway scores 24 points and then scores 8 points. Like, you can't have that happen. Like, the team is so inconsistent. Jalen Brunson's awesome, but against a real point guard, like, what is he actually going to do? Like, you played the Spurs, and no offense, the Clippers don't have a real point guard either. Like, you play teams that don't have real point guards right now. Like, Josh Richardson looks great. I will give him that. Like, Josh Richardson looks fabulous. You're finally getting what he needs to do, but you need the whole team to show up just to get a win right now.
David, you know what makes the difference between the 4 seed and the 8 seed? Your role players. You got to have some more role players on that team. I mean, honestly, 7 players in double figures compared to 1, you need more help consistently.
You want to know what else separates the 4 and 8 seed?
What?
Like a game or two. So it's
Oh,
not that
David.
big a difference.
A game or
Right
two, the
there.
Mavs keep
I'm
losing.
Again, I'm done with you people. You Maverick haters. Next up, we'll take a break from the basketball court and head over to the gridiron and see how the NFL's offseason is shaping up for some of the league's biggest teams. Join us after this commercial break. Welcome back to Sportszone. The NFL offseason is officially underway, and many teams wasted little time in improving their team's chances at securing postseason glory. This past week, we have seen some lucrative contracts handed out, players switching teams, and most recently, big retirement news from one of the league's best players. To dive into this week's free agency news, I'm joined by analysts Alex Salas and Sebastian Nava. How are we today, gentlemen?
We're doing good, thank you.
Good to hear. Now, I want to go ahead and mention, a lot of people were able to secure a bag this week, and none other than maybe Cam Newton able to get a re-sign with New England when I think a lot of people thought he was on the way out. Who, to you, Alec, is your biggest free agent signing that has been maybe other than Dak?
Well, it's a great question, David. I think one of my favorite acquisitions from this past offseason has to be Carl Lawson to the New York Jets, 3 years, $45 million. To me, it reminds me a lot of there's a Darius Smith signing a couple years ago with the Green Bay Packers. He flashed some potential. Sack numbers were decent, relatively speaking, but now he gets to go to a new place, new home with Robert Saleh, defense coordinator, now head coach for the Jets. Carl Lawson was a guy I think really could develop into an elite pass rusher, much like Darius Smith did with the Packers.
Look, I want to say people have secured their bag, but I think no other team has sanded out enough money like the New England Patriots. I think if anyone's fire got lit after this Super Bowl run by Tom Brady was Bill Belichick. So I want to go to you, Alec, or Sebastian. What do you think about the Pats' signings this offseason?
Just like you said, Bill Belichick obviously saw Tom Brady winning without him, so he's obviously saying, let's run it back and, get a few pieces for Cam Newton to work with. He got Jonnu Smith, who's a really solid piece on the offense. So, I'm just really excited to see how they do, this upcoming season.
Yeah, you got Cam Newton, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. You got Nelson Aguilar, who, he drops everything. But, hey, we'll see what happens if Cam can even get the ball to him. But they are not wasting any time. They're trying to do their best to maybe, right the ship. But there's other players who are still out there, specifically maybe who the Cowboys need to look at. Who do you think, Alec, is someone that maybe the Cowboys or another team might be targeting?
I'll throw out one name for the Dallas Cowboys. That's be former Falcons safety Devontae Casey. A couple years ago, led the NFL in interceptions. He played 4 games this year, but then went on injured reserve due to an injury. He's a guy who, low risk, high reward, kind of fits the Cowboys bargain bin, if you will, free agency type players. He's a guy who could be a real stopgate at safety, depending on what they do in the draft.
Yeah, I think safety DB is one of those main concerns. I know we got Shaquille Griffin, who's a free agent, Desmond King. There may be some of those type. Patrick Peterson is always an interesting name that's been on, I think, the Cowboys' radar for quite some time. Is there anyone, Sebastian, who you think should be the next one signed up?
For the Cowboys, I think one name that should interest them a lot is Trent Williams, offensive lineman. Spent a long time in Washington's organization, spent the last year in San Francisco. The Cowboys have had a lot of offensive line issues, especially with Tyron Smith missing a significant amount of time. So if they could get Trent Williams, that would be a really good piece to protect Dak, especially coming off that injury. You don't want to injure your new $1 million guy. So Trent Williams should be an interesting name for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at Trent Williams as somebody who may secure that OT spot for some teams. But another name that I think he might be a little older, but Bronze Star recipient, Alejandro Villanueva, Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see him come into the team and maybe help, shore up that line for Dak. But there's plenty of other players, but I think there's something that we want to go ahead and mention. I mentioned retirement, and one player that has been signed due to retirement is Jameis Winston. I want to go to you, Sebastian. Do you think that is a fit that will work out for New Orleans long term?
Jameis Winston, I believe there's obviously a little bit of talent there, especially considering he was he led the league in passing yards one year. But of course, he also led the league in interception as the first quarterback to throw 30 touchdowns and interceptions in the same year. So, obviously he is a bit of a turnover machine. But if they can really cut down on the turnovers, then they can really get a nice production value out of him.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned the retirement, and I think this player may have touched a particular analyst on our staff here a little more than other players or other guys. But Drew Brees meant a lot to New Orleans and to a lot of the New Orleans fan base. So I want to go to you, Alec. What does Drew Brees his retirement mean to the NFL and to New Orleans as a whole?
Well, look, David, I could easily sit here and spit numbers at you. 5,000 yard passing seasons. Nobody else has more than one. The numerous records he holds. Most games with 300 yards, 400 yards, 500 yards in a game. But look, in reality, it's real simple. Drew Brees means the most to New Orleans than any other athlete means to a city in all of sports, really. I think, talk about the Saints before Brees gets there. we were trash. It's real easy to say we were not good. Tom Benson talked about moving the team to San Antonio before Hurricane Katrina. And then, of course, Katrina happened. And then Brees really made the Saints relevant. And just it goes beyond football to what Drew Brees means to this city. I doubt Drew would watch this or is watching this. But I'll just say, from the bottom of my heart, Who Dat Nation, thank you. Because 15 years with him, it's been truly special to watch him and his career. And I'm excited for what it goes on afterwards, but just super blessed to watch him play all these years.
Yeah, I think if anyone remembers that far back, it's been a while since Brees wasn't a New Orleans Saint, but they were the New Orleans Aints. I think there was a lot of time that New Orleans fans may forget how rough it was prior to him joining the squad. So I think for that city, he's going to mean a lot, and his departure may leave a hole for a little bit, but I think he'll stick around. He's made a home there in New Orleans. But that's a wrap for today's show. Thank you again for joining us on another episode of Sportszone. A reminder, we are on every Tuesday at 5:30 on Charter 192 and Frontier 46. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at ntTV Sports. Join us next week when we rank our favorite dinosaurs 1 to 10. Spoiler alert, mine's Godzilla. Until then, take care and wear your mask.